you've been taking part in our light software experiment and you've built this for the Sinclair Spectrum, then today's the day for you. Stand by to press the space bar, because the light software for your machine is coming up later on. Here's Jane.
And microdrive or disk drive for your QL or your Spectrum? That's the question. But first, this week's opening titles. Well, this week's opening titles were programmed by Steve Burrows. Steve, welcome to the programme.
Hello, Jane.
Now, most of our viewers have written their software in sort of either machine code or BASIC. You chose the language Forth. Can you tell us why?
I just love it. It's a beautiful language to operate with. I don't get bored with it. It's easy to look at, so debugging is very easy. And I just fall in love with it.
Is it sort of specifically designed to help you with graphics programs?
Yes, it is, but it was initially used to operate radio telescopes back in the 1970s.
Right. Now, I can read most sort of basic programs just by looking at different sort of codes. This one is a complete mystery to me. For example, what on earth does bang TL, T2, TL2, T2 mean?
Well, it's very graphic. Bang means blow up the force, TL means top left, T2 is a delay loop, which just slows things down, which just proves that Forth is very fast, because I've actually had to program the program to slow itself down.
So bang is actually a little procedure that you've written that you can then call on?
That's right, yes, and in fact, Forth is just like building a pyramid. You have lots of low-level blocks, slowly build up, and in fact there's just one word, one function that operates the whole program in the end, that's called buffs.
And that's right at the very end of this whole listing?
That's right, yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you, Jane.
Tony?
Well, still on the subject of software, indeed languages, but not Forth, we sent Mike Thorne out, not on a C5, but on his bike, to investigate the language of Prolog.
We all know that computers can help us at work, but thanks to the 5th generation programming language Prolog, it may be that computers can help us get to work. Ah, Jonathan, there you are. I've got a fuse.
Right, well, let's see if it works.
I hope so this time. There's the little devil. What's it saying now?
Well, it's asking us whether the fuses are OK, so I suppose they are, because it's a new one.
Yep, certainly.
OK, it's going to look at the petrol. Does the engine turn over?
Here goes. Sounds all right to me.
Sounds OK. Right, what about the petrol gauge? What's it showing at the moment?
About half full.
About half full, so it's not empty?
No, certainly not.
Right, well, let's look at the sparks next. Are the spark plug leads connected?
And indeed, if we'd bothered to check in the first place, we'd have discovered that the spark plug leads were disconnected. Jonathan, you wrote that expert system to find out why your car won't start, and it's written in Prolog, right?
That's right, yes.
Well, can we have a look inside the program, then?
Yes, let me just list part of the program. OK, and as you'll see, it looks quite different from the sort of computer languages you're probably used to.
It certainly does, no numbers.
No, that's right. Now, instead, what we've got are a set of rules, and these are rules about car faults. We have a rule, for example, that says that the battery being flat is a possible fault if the headlights are not working and the terminals are connected.
Right.
We also have a set of things that we've told the computer. These are facts. We're told, for example, that the headlights are working and that the engine is turning over.
Oh, right, yes, OK. Well, you didn't do too badly with the car. Now, I wonder if you could help me with my bike.
Right.
I'm getting a bit of a bumpy ride, actually.
If we move over to the Amstrad, we have another expert system here, rather a small one, but this is about what might make your ride bumpy. Once again, we have a set of facts. These are about what causes what, and a set of rules about what sort of faults lead to other sort of faults. And let's ask it if it knows something that might be leading to your bumpy ride. OK, and it should look for a set of answers by using the facts and rules. Here we are. A flat tyre leads to a bumpy ride, or a puncture, or a leaky valve, or broken glass.
That's interesting, because in the facts that we gave it, we didn't actually say broken glass leads to a bumpy ride, so it's made that deduction itself.
It's used the rules to produce the answers.
Now, this isn't set in tablets of stone, is it? We could give it some more rules or facts.
That's right. We could, for example, add something...
Well, what about, I tell you what about vandals leads to broken glass, could we?
All right, let's add that. Vandals causes broken glass. OK, we just add it like that. It's not English, but it's fairly close, and it's a natural language for you and I to write computer programs.
So now, if we ask it what leads to a bumpy ride now...
All right, so we'll ask it for something that leads to a bumpy ride again, and we'll see whether vandals are included this time. And we get the same list as before, and there they are, the vandals at the bottom. Vandals lead to bumpy ride. One thing we can do, we can ask the computer to explain why it's come up with that particular answer. So, that's something you can't do with most computer programs, but let's ask it why vandals leads to bumpy ride. And it's going to use the rules again, and this time it comes up with an explanation. Vandals leads to bumpy ride because vandals cause broken glass, and broken glass leads to a bumpy ride. OK, now both of these programs, it looks as though you need a bit of experience in Prolog to write them. I wonder if you could show us an example of a very simple Prolog program. Oh, let's move over onto the BBC Micro, and here I've got Prolog loaded, but with nothing else. So let's tell it a fact straight off without anything else. Let's tell it that Kath likes Adrian. All right. Yes. And a second piece of information, that John likes Mary. So here are two facts. All right. Let's also put in a rule. Someone is happy if anyone likes someone. All right?
True, if they're loved, yes. Okay.
That's right. OK, let's find out who's happy. So, ask the computer whether anyone is happy. And the computer comes back and says, Adrian's happy, Mary's happy. So, let's ask it why. And it will explain Adrian is happy because Kath likes Adrian. It's using the rules we put in to actually come up with the answers.
Well, Jonathan, all these versions of Prolog we've been looking at, they're all programmed by Logic Programming Associates, which is the company you work for, right?
That's right, yes.
Well, can you tell us how much they all cost?
Well, it varies. The Sinclair Spectrum version is under £30. The other versions you've seen here, £40, £50, £60, around that sort of level. But we do versions right up to things like the IBM PC, and that's £240.
Really? OK. Well, if we want to buy them, do we buy them from Logic Programming Associates?
Not these versions we've seen here. No, you'd go to Sinclair or to Amstrad or whoever your machines are, and you get them from them.
OK. Now, all the rage in basic programming at the moment are sort of really good graphics with sprites and lots of music. Can you do that in Prolog?
Well, we don't stop you using those sort of facilities in your computers, but really, that's not what Prolog's about. Prolog is for this sort of thing we've seen here, for building expert systems and these style of things.
Can you handle text?
Well, obviously, yes. I mean, you've seen this is very much text-based.
OK, well, then, what about a text adventure game?
Fine, yes, OK. Let's move on to the Spectrum, and we've got one here, which I've been working on. I've been building up a bit of an adventure. This really is an adventure building system, but it will allow me to add in exactly the same way you've seen here, things like there's an object in a particular room, and it's a cat. Right. And if I add that in, a fact which you can add into an adventure game. OK, I've got a bit of a game here, so let's play it. You are standing in Studio 2.
It's true, yes.
Yes. You're not carrying anything. There's a computer here, well, and there's an exit west. So, let's go west.
That's a hat, yes.
No, I can't spell. Go west. Right, you're in the canteen. You're not carrying anything. There's a plate of food here. There's an exit east.
Well, I think you better take that rather than some of the canteen food.
Right, let's go east. Right. You are standing back in Studio 2. You're not carrying anything. There's a computer here, and there's an exit west.
Well, let's take the computer this time.
Right, let's pick up the computer and perhaps take it with us on our travels. You are standing in Studio 2. You're holding a computer. Near you, there's a dragon.
A dragon? There's no dragon here.
If you can still see your screen, place your Spectrum light pen sucker in position when the software circle appears. But first, microdrive or disk drive? 1985 will be the year when cheap personal computers begin to open up a new mass market. People who were put off by the image of toy micros but couldn't afford thousands for professional systems will now be turning to the new Atari range, the cheap Sanyo business computers, or perhaps the Sinclair QL. But cheap as these are, the cost can almost double if you buy disk drives, and they're essential for all serious computing. Sinclair say they have a solution, the controversial microdrive, and we think it's time for a closer look at what they claim. The Sinclair microdrive is a marvel of small-scale engineering, all fitting into this area. It began life as an add-on for the Spectrum, but has been re-engineered for the QL and the one per desk. It's an endless loop of videotape revolving at high speed. There's about 100K of storage on each cartridge, and access times are quite fast, but it's by no means as good as a floppy disk system. On this QL we have Quill, the word processor, loaded from microdrive. And here we have it loaded from the Quest floppy disk drive. Let's load the help file on each and see which is the fastest. So I press function 1 on each one, and you can see they're both now loading the help file. The disk drive is considerably faster, and it holds more information as well. The microdrive is still loading, and there it is, about a 12-second add-on time. So why would anybody want to use microdrives? David Carlin, welcome to the programme. So that's really the first question. Why did Sinclair develop the microdrive system rather than going for a cheaper disk drive?
Well, there are a few reasons. Firstly, we wanted a system that was much more compact. A whole QL with microdrives weighs about half of what the Quest floppy disk system alone weighs, and the cartridges themselves are far more portable and they're far more robust. But the main reason is that we wanted a system that was going to be much cheaper. The microdrive costs us about a sixth to put into a computer of the cost of the cheapest floppy disk drive we could have bought.
So cost really was the overriding factor?
Yes, that's right.
But nonetheless, the microdrive can only store up to about 100K in terms of either a data file or a program, and that's really limiting for sort of some of the larger database files.
It certainly is limiting for the larger database files, and for that reason, I'm sure that there will be many people who do buy disk drives for their QLs. However, it's more than adequate for many uses. It's certainly a good way to start computing, and there are many people who would never need more storage.
So you admit that there will be people who will start off at the microdrive level and yet upgrade to sort of use disk drives later on?
There certainly will be, but then there will be also many who don't need to.
Now, what about the software? So far we've really only seen the sort of the Psion range of software, and that's without the nice exchange feature that I showed a few weeks ago. What other software is coming?
Well, it's taken a little while, but there is now a lot of new software coming out for the QL, mainly oriented towards the small business. There's a lot of accountancy software, and it's all fairly easy to use. What I'd like to show you is my own favourite, which is a program used for planning projects. What it does is to do what's called critical path planning. It tells me what activities are vital to the success of a project and how long I have spare on the ones where there is a little bit of time, and it plots a bar chart of those activities.
OK, so that's another new piece of software that will soon be on the market.
Yes, that's right.
What about the Psion range of software? Is there now an upgrade available for that?
There is an upgrade available for Psion, which has gone out to all people who are members of the QL Users Bureau, and will also be going out with all new QLs from now. And that is considerably faster than the old version.
A question I must ask is, what about the reliability of the microdrive? How does it stand up to disk drive reliability?
Well, I think that now microdrives are very close to the reliability of disk drives. We did have some problems early on, but then anyone who'd bought a disk system 3 or 4 years ago could tell you some real horror stories. Those problems are now over, and the microdrives we're shipping are very good.
Now, don't you think it's giving you in some ways an enormous marketing problem in starting off with a microdrive? Because in people's minds they think, microdrive equals some kind of cassette system, equals some kind of toy computer. So in terms of penetrating the business market, aren't you setting yourself a problem there?
It is a problem. I think we simply have to make people realise that the microdrive is a useful medium, that it offers a compromise of price and performance that is unequalled by any of our competitors and by any floppy disk system. And obviously we have to put that message across. I hope that pieces of software like the one that I've shown you will show people that you really can use microdrives and that they will work on quite large-sized applications.
And you're obviously going forward to develop new and other things, both to fit into the QL and other pieces.
Yes, we certainly are, but you should ask Clive about those next week.
Okay, well, thank you very much, David. As David says, next week Sir Clive Sinclair will be with us, so if you have any questions about either the Spectrum or the QL, then why not drop us a line on our Prestel mailbox or send us a message through the bulletin board.
That's right, do just that. Also, press the space bar on your Spectrum machines if you're taking the light software, because we're going to be transmitting it very soon. Now, this gentleman here, Paul Langwade, knows a lot about circuits, and on the screen in front of me we have a representation of the circuit for the light pen for both the BBC Micro and the Commodore 64. He's not the sort of loony who just puts up representations of electrical circuits on the screen for fun. It's part of a computer program you've written, right?
That's right. It's a design tool, mainly for schools, for drawing circuit diagrams on the screen.
What gave you the idea to do it?
Well, I do some electronics at home, and I got fed up with drawing circuits on bits of paper, and then, when they were wrong, screwing them up and throwing them away. With this, you can manipulate the symbols on the screen until you get it right.
Right. Give us an example of how you can design something on it. Let's go to a clear page. Right.
Right. Well, we come up with this cursor, and I can draw lines which would normally represent electronic wires on the screen. If I imagine I wanted a component at this point, I can select into a components menu.
There's a big menu there. All right, let me choose one. How about a semiconductor? Let's have one there.
The semiconductors are now loading. Let's select a transistor, and there's a transistor symbol. The story's not finished there, because I can still move the symbol around, rotate it, and mirror image it, and change its size as well if I felt like it. There we are. And when I've finally finished messing about with it, I can fix it in position. Now I've got another one I can do the same with.
Right. Is the user lumbered with your choice of components, or can I design my own component if I wanted to?
No, you can design your own components on the screen and manipulate them in the same way and save them in your own library of components.
So, despite the fact that you, even though you work here at Thames Television, are a keen member of our computer club, are interested in electronics, what you've actually produced here is a sort of mini computer-aided design system, which I could design anything on. Is that the idea?
That's right. You could design any technical drawing, really, on this system.
Have you got any plans to do any more computer programs, or is this it?
No, I've got some more plans coming up, yeah.
Which you're not going to tell us about yet, are you?
No, not yet.
No, I see. All right. Well, there we are. Now, if you want to know more about Paul's program, which is called Circuit, it's a design tool for schools, then what you have to do is to get in touch with the MEP, that's the Microelectronics Education Programme, or, of course, you can always write to us at 4 Computer Buffs, Thames TV, 149 Tottenham Court Road, London W1P9LL. Do take a close look at this programme. It does a lot more than we've had time to show you. Now it's Modem Corner with Ben Knox.
Hi there. This week we're going to take a look at two British database systems which are provided for computer users, Micronet 800 and CompuNet. Micronet 800 is part of British Telecom's Prestel system and has just had its second birthday. It has most of the usual features which you would expect to find in a database of this type, such as news, electronic mail, telesoftware and bulletin boards. A new area on the service is called Chatline, which is on page 811. Here, users can chat to each other much in the same way as they could on CompuServe's CB simulator, which I covered a couple of weeks ago. The difference between the two systems are that Chatline uses a whole page to a message, and it can take up to 30 minutes for a Chatline message to appear on the system after it has been sent. Micronet are starting a new Chatline service called Celebrity Chatline, where personalities from the computer industry will be online to answer questions from Micronet users. In fact, our producer Michael Feldman is on the first Celebrity Chatline, which is on Wednesday evening. Another area to look out for on Micronet is called Micromouse. That's on page 800-651. Here you'll find all the latest information on computer communications. Micronet costs £13 a quarter. The other system, CompuNet, opened last year and is currently only available for users of the Commodore 64 who have the Commodore modem. The most revolutionary part of the system is called the jungle, which I'll enter now. Now, as you can see, frames can take a fair time to be sent. This is because everything is error-checked. Now, that's fine for downloading programs, but I think it's a waste of time for title pages and text. Anyway, in the jungle, you can upload programs, text and graphics and sell them to other users. There is also a voting system, which I'll call up now, so you can get an idea of the quality of a program before you download it. Software houses can also sell software through the system. For them, there is the added advantage that they can build copy protection into each program, so that it'll only run if the same modem which downloaded the program is plugged in. Now, if you use a different modem, or none at all, when you try to run the program, well, you can see what happens on this Commodore soccer game. First, the players come out onto the field. Now, of course, what I've done is to save this game onto cassette, which, of course, you can do with any game that you purchase from CompuNet. Now, as you see, they all run back, which, of course, makes this game unplayable. A CompuNet subscription comes free with the Commodore modem, which costs £100.
Thanks, Ben. Well, here's Guy. Is it good news or bad news this week, or both?
Well, we do have some good news. The good news is that part of Prism has been saved. Prism was the distributor which very kindly crashed in time to make our first news bulletin exciting 6 weeks ago. Part of that was Wren Computers, and that's the part that's been saved. Wren made a cheap CPM portable which did view data, and they sold about 1,000 units. But the buyout hasn't pleased the staff much, for the fairly simple reason that they'd been hoping to buy the company themselves. Instead, it was bought by Opus. That's a name most of us will recognise from low-cost colour screens. And though Opus won't say what they paid to get their foot into the computer building scene, they did admit that it was rather more than the staff had been hoping to pay. And the dissatisfaction of the staff might also be related to the fact that they were all fired a week before Opus bought the company. Well, nearly all. Quite a few had already gone looking for new jobs.
Any more bad news?
Well, let's get the bad news out of the way first. Computer company OEL has had to call in the receiver. One of its major shareholders, a bakery, would you believe, actually did the deed last Friday. And the good news is that the receiver has told the staff he believes the company can be sold as a going concern, which is very good news since OEL has just launched a modem for the QL. And this could be good news.
Looks like a book to me.
It is a book. It's a guide to second-hand computer prices. You may have heard, for example, that Debenhams has now stopped deciding to sell business micros, saying that the market is, and I quote them, saturated. Well, it may be simpler than that. According to Fred Brown, the author of this Brown book, the correct word may be stagnated. He says the reason nobody is buying new micros is that nobody can sell their old machines. Fred Brown reckons American micro factories are jammed with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of excess inventory. Not just useless junk, but well-known names. Televideo, Eagle, Commodore, and so on. Machines which people would like to buy. But just imagine taking your Spectrum to W.H. Smith and asking to trade it in for a QL. The assistant wouldn't have a clue how much to offer. So says Fred, I agree. He's very optimistic that as retail chains get hold of this book, they'll start taking old machines as trade-in. It's a nice thought, and I think it'll help, but frankly, until the industry stops making the thoroughly user-proof machines the book is full of, I suspect their shelves will remain cluttered. Now, have a look at this. It's a map of Derbyshire where the Times School Network is going live with its first local database. This is a rival service to the Prestel-based School Link, which we mentioned a few weeks back, and the clever thing about this is that the picture was sent over the phone via Telecom Gold, apparently the first time this has been done. Actually, there isn't much love lost between School Link and the Times Network. They tell me they will have 1,000 users by the end of the month. They say proudly, and they say also that if School Link has 130 users, that's a generous estimate. But rivalry apart, it is nice to see enthusiasm online. And now I have, finally, a fairly large mouse for Commodore 64 users. It's going on sale soon at £60, including graphics software from SMC. It is a nice big one, so it should at least give you some exercise. One remembers Commodore used to advertise a 64 with an elephant, and maybe this isn't so much a mouse as, well, something bigger.
A rat, for instance, perhaps? I don't know. Well, there we are. By the way, that Brown book is very American, so come on, Glasses Guide. How about doing a British version, or perhaps Brown book will bring one over here. Remember, you can contact each other through the Home Link bullet, or you can leave a message for us on our Presto mailbox, page 7776, or you can, if you wish, feel so moved to write to us like lots and lots of people have done, including Mr. G. Stonell from Bedford, who wrote to us to say, we've got to read this, it's a nice letter. Dear Buffs, I feel I must write to congratulate you on the success of your software transmission for the Spectrum on February the 26th. I've taken part in many such transmissions by other sources, each of which gave no results. It's not the fact that I've received 2 free arcade games, which is a nice bonus, but the fact that at least one of the broadcasting companies has got it right. That interests me. It interests us too. I've watched each programme, 3 to date, and have been impressed with the style of presentation and the technical information given. Keep up the good work, G.T. Stonell. P.S. This letter has been compiled on a Spectrum Plus with the aid of TazWord 2 word processing software and a Brother M1009 dot matrix printer. Nice to hear some good news, isn't it, Jay?
Well, tomorrow morning software transmission at 10 o'clock and again at 11 is once again for the Spectrum. And the software's come from Melbourne House and also from Micromega. Don't forget to use a 30-minute tape, otherwise you'll miss the end of the software transmission. Until then, see you next week.